I never imagined my life would fracture in a single phone call, but grief has a way of showing you who truly stands with you and who was only pretending. My name is Ava, and until a few months ago, I believed that family was unbreakable, especially between sisters. But I learned the hard way that even the ones who share your blood can drain the life out of your heart when you are at your weakest. Like my sister Emma did when my precious daughter Lily died. Lily was my miracle child, the one I was never supposed to have because doctors told me my heart condition made pregnancy too dangerous. But she arrived anyway, tiny, determined, full of light, and for 7 beautiful years, she turned every ordinary day into magic, dancing barefoot in the kitchen, singing to the birds outside her window, insisting that the stars twinkled just for her. I thought we had all the time in the world until the day she collapsed on the playground. Her little hands clutching her chest while I ran screaming for help. And then everything became a blur of ambulances, bright hospital lights, and a doctor with apologetic eyes saying her heart had simply stopped, that she was gone. Just like that. I remember sitting there numb, staring at my own trembling fingers while the world moved around me like a violent storm, and all I wanted was Emma, my older sister, my role model, the person who was supposed to show up when everything fell apart. But when I called her to tell her Lily was gone, she said she was in the middle of a meeting and would call later. She didn't, not for 2 days, and when she finally called, she spent more time complaining about how inconvenient the funeral planning would be than offering a single word of comfort. Still, I tried to ignore it because grief makes you desperate for any scrap of normalcy, and I convinced myself Emma was just processing the shock differently. So when I set the funeral date for Saturday, the only day the chapel was free, I called her again, hoping she would tell me she'd be there holding my hand. But instead she sighed loudly and said, "Oh, Ava, that's the same day as Chloe's birthday party at the club. Can't you move your little minor event?" Yes, those were her exact words. Minor event, as if burying my child was comparable to rescheduling brunch. I felt something in me rip open, but I fought my voice steady and told her I couldn't change it, that the cemetery and the priest were already confirmed, and all she said was, "Well, then you'll just have to understand if we're late." Like the world revolved around her daughter turning 12. 2 days before the funeral, she called again, not to ask how I was holding up, but to ask if I could make sure no one wore black because she didn't want sad photos on her social media feed if she decided to stop by after the cake cutting. And at that moment, I knew her heart had been lost to vanity, long before my daughter's had stopped beating. But I stayed silent because I had no strength left to fight. The funeral day arrived cold and cloudy, the kind of gray that feels like the sky is grieving with you, and I stood in the chapel holding Lily's favorite stuffed bunny against my chest, while slow, heartbreaking music played and people came. Neighbors, friends, even strangers Lily had smiled at once. But Emma didn't, and every time the doors opened, my heart begged it to be her until the service ended, and I realized she chose balloons and glitter over saying goodbye to her own niece. I thought it was over until I saw her Instagram story pop up on my phone. Videos of her laughing, dancing, posing with champagne, captioned "Best Day Ever" and "Mom of the Year," while across town my daughter was being lowered into the ground. And that was the moment my grief began to burn instead of drown, turning into something sharper: anger, betrayal, clarity. Hours later, Emma finally arrived wearing a sparkling gold dress, dragging Chloe, who looked embarrassed and guilty. And Emma had the audacity to complain that my timing was terrible, because her makeup was ruined from the humidity outside, not from tears. Never from tears. People stared, whispered. One of her friends even told her to stop talking, but she just tossed her hair and said she had shown up. So I should be grateful. And that's when the ice inside me hardened, giving me the strength to finally speak the truth. No. Emma, you didn't show up? Not for her, not for me, not ever. And the look on her face shifted for a moment, confusion, maybe even fear, like she was realizing she had finally crossed a line she couldn't erase. She left angry, yelling that I was ruining the family dynamic. But all I felt was relief, because the dynamic she wanted was one where only her feelings mattered. The weeks after the funeral were hell, But losing Emma felt less like grief and more like freedom, especially when I started hearing stories from family about what she'd been saying. That I was milking the drama, that Lily wasn't her responsibility, that I was being selfish for expecting support. Those words spread like poison, but instead of infecting me, they revealed everyone who believed her and everyone who saw the truth. I learned who genuinely cared. My Aunt Rosa, who stayed by my side and cooked meals when I forgot how to eat. My neighbor, who helped plant a garden of pink roses around Lily's favorite tree. And even Chloe, who came by one afternoon crying, apologizing for her mom, and handing me a small envelope with a drawing she made of Lily dancing with stars. I hugged her and promised her she was nothing like her mother, and that moment planted a seed of strength inside me. A reminder that not all hearts are selfish. Months passed, and one day I received a letter from the country club saying Emma had used Lily's funeral as an excuse for not paying the party fees. She had actually listed it as a family emergency. That ruined everything. And the rage I thought I had buried came roaring back. But this time I didn't let it destroy me. Instead, I decided to expose the truth. I printed screenshots of her best day ever posts, gathered witness statements from people who heard what she said, and confronted her at my parents' house during a family dinner, reading every awful word she wrote, every cruel thing she said, while she stammered and tried to twist the story like she always did, claiming she was stressed, overwhelmed, misunderstood, blaming everyone except herself. But no one was listening anymore, not even our parents. My father, who once adored her, shook his head and said the words she had feared all her life. "You are not the victim here, Emma, and you never were." And finally, the mask she had worn for years shattered. She screamed, cried, threw a glass, and stormed out, slamming the door not just on the house, but on the illusion that she was the golden child. Since that day, she hasn't contacted me once, and I've realized I don't miss her at all, because the only time she's ever cared about me was when it benefited her. I still visit Lily's grave every week, always with pink roses, always with love, and when the wind blows just right, I swear I can hear her laughter dancing with the leaves. Losing her will always be the deepest wound in my soul, but losing my sister was a necessary amputation, cutting away the infection that would have destroyed what was left of me. Now I tell my story not to gain sympathy, but to show others that sometimes family isn't who you're related to. It's who shows up when your world collapses, who holds you while you cry, who honors your loved ones even after they're gone. Emma once called Lily's funeral a minor event, but the real minor event was her presence, or rather, her absence, because in the end, she proved exactly how small her heart truly was. Today, I continue living for my daughter, cherishing every memory, building a life she would be proud of, and I refuse to let someone who couldn't be bothered to say goodbye play any role in my healing. Grief didn't break me. It revealed me. And though I lost a sister, I found something far greater: the strength to demand love that is real, loyalty that is honest, and relationships that don't disappear when the balloons go flat and the cameras stop recording. I thought cutting ties with Emma would be the end of our story, that she would live her glitter-filled life far away from the ruins of my heart. But grief changes people in waves, and months after that final blowout, I began noticing small ripples. First, a text message saying, "We should talk," which I ignored. Then another claiming she missed me, missed Lily, as if she had ever truly known her. I deleted each message without responding, until one afternoon there was a knock on my door, and when I opened it, Emma stood there, no makeup, no designer clothes, just a trembling woman clutching a framed photo of her and Lily from years ago. Back when pretending to care was easy for her, she didn't speak at first, just stared at the picture before whispering, "I messed up." And tears slipped down her cheeks. Real tears this time, not the dramatic kind she used to manipulate people. And for a moment I felt the old ache of wanting my sister back, of wishing she could be someone I could lean on again. But then memories of her calling my baby's funeral a minor event stabbed through that weakness, reminding me wounds don't heal just because the one who caused them regrets the damage. She begged to come inside, saying she needed to explain, that she'd been jealous her whole life, because I became a mother before her, because Lily was adored by everyone, and she felt left out of the love. But jealousy is not an excuse for cruelty, and I told her that, not with anger, but with the kind of calm that comes only after surviving the worst pain imaginable. She broke down harder, saying she sees her mistakes now, that losing me and Chloe pulling away opened her eyes, that she wants us to rebuild, to be family again. I wanted to believe her. I truly did, because forgiveness is tempting when you're tired of hurting. But trust isn't something you can resurrect with an apology delivered long after the damage is done. Still, I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I simply told her that healing would take more than tears and regretful words. That she would need to show, through actions, consistency, presence, that she was capable of love beyond her own reflection. I said, "If you want to earn a place in my life again, start by honoring the little girl whose funeral you couldn't bother to attend." And I handed her a pink rose, Lily's favorite, telling her she could start by visiting the grave she once ignored. I didn't watch her go. I didn't follow. I just closed the door and let the silence decide the rest. The next day, I went to the cemetery as always, expecting to see nothing new, but there it was, a single pink rose resting beside the ones I brought, and a small card that only said, "I'm sorry, Lily. I'll do better." My chest tightened, because maybe, just maybe, this was the first crack of light shining through a person who had spent years trapped in darkness. I still don't know if Emma and I will fully repair what she destroyed. I don't know if I can ever trust her enough to let her all the way back in. But I do know that people can change if they choose to face their ugliest truths. Forgiveness isn't for the other person, it's for yourself. To release the grip of bitterness and make room for peace. And while I haven't forgiven her yet, I'm willing to watch her try. Because Lily would have wanted me to choose healing over hate. So for now, this is where our story stands. Not a perfect reunion, not a happily ever after, but a beginning built on honesty, accountability, and the hope that maybe one day we can be sisters again. And this time, love will be more than a word we pretend to understand. Weeks passed like shifting weather, some days calm, some days unpredictable, and though I noticed more roses appearing at Lily's grave, always pink, always fresh, I didn't ask Emma about them, because I wanted her actions to speak louder than promises. And they did, quietly, consistently. She stopped posting online for attention, started volunteering at a children's hospital where she read stories to kids who reminded her of the niece she lost. And one afternoon, she even asked if she could join me in planting new roses in Lily's garden. Standing beside me in silence, letting the sunlight and soil do the talking. It was strange, having her near me again, but without the shield of defensiveness she always wore. And a small part of my heart dared to feel hope. But hope can be dangerous when trust is fragile. Everything shifted the day of Lily's birthday memorial, the first one since she passed, and I planned a gentle gathering at the cemetery. Just a few family members, cupcakes and a lantern release, to celebrate her life rather than drown in sorrow. And when Emma asked if she could help, I said yes, hesitantly, but yes. She arrived early, carrying a framed picture of Lily and a stack of letters she planned to burn as messages to heaven. And for the first time in a long time, her eyes looked soft, not guarded. As we lit the candles and sang softly under the evening sky painted pink like Lily's favorite ballet slippers, I saw Chloe approach me with nervous hands clasped together, asking if she could talk to me alone. And what she told me next shattered everything I thought I knew about the past year. She said Emma had been in therapy not just for grief, but because she had been diagnosed with severe anxiety and body image dysmorphia long before Lily died, that her obsession with perfection and social approval wasn't vanity. It was a sickness she hid behind glamour. And after the funeral disaster, Chloe confronted her, saying she was becoming a monster, and Emma broke completely, entering treatment after realizing her own daughter was afraid of who she was turning into. Suddenly, pieces of Emma's cruelty started forming a tragic puzzle, not excuses, but explanations. And as the lanterns floated upward, glowing like tiny stars returning home, Emma took a deep breath, and finally confessed the biggest truth she had been hiding. That the day Lily died and I called her at work, she didn't answer because she was being admitted to the hospital for a panic attack so severe she collapsed, and she didn't want me to see her like that. So instead she lied, pretended she was fine, and every choice after that lie was driven by shame, fear of vulnerability, and the belief that she had already failed me beyond repair. I stood there speechless, torn between fury for the pain she caused and sorrow for the pain she drowned in alone. And for the first time since Lily left this world, I realized I wasn't the only one grieving, not the only one broken, just the only one who had been honest about it. Emma fell to her knees, sobbing, telling me she let pride destroy the most important relationships in her life, that she hated the person she had become, and that she didn't deserve my forgiveness, but hoped one day Chloe could be proud of her again. There was no dramatic moment of instant forgiveness, no warm embrace that magically erased the past. Instead, I knelt beside her slowly, placed my hand on her shoulder and said, "Healing isn't about deserving, it's about trying." And her tears turned into a relieved, shaking breath. The wind picked up then, lifting Lily's lantern higher than the rest, and I felt something, a tiny glimmer of peace, like Lily was saying she approved of this fragile new beginning. After everyone left, Emma stayed behind and asked if she could tell me one last thing. She whispered that Lily once told her she wanted us to stop fighting, that she wanted her mom and her aunt to be best friends again. And that memory had haunted Emma every night since she died. Those words pierced me deep, cutting through anger, slicing into the part of me that wanted to protect Lily's wishes even after her heart stopped beating. I looked at my sister, raw, flawed, humbled, and I realized that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means choosing not to let the pain control what happens next. So for Lily, for Chloe, and maybe even for ourselves, I said we could try again, but slowly, honestly, without pretending to be perfect. And as we walked away from the cemetery together, I didn't know where our story would go from here. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't walking alone.